The rain fell gently over the rolling hills of Tuscany, Italy, where the ancient cemetery of San Miniato rested under a sky painted with soft gray clouds. Cypress trees stood like silent guards, their shadows stretching across the damp earth. Luca Moretti, a man in his early 60s, stepped out of his weathered gray Fiat, his leather boots pressing into the wet stone path as he walked toward a gravestone he knew by heart. Every year, on April 15th, he came here, to the resting place of the woman who had once been his everything. In his hands, trembling slightly from age, he held a small bunch of lavender, her favorite. Luca was a man who had carved his name into the world of Italian wine. His vineyards stretched across the hills of Chianti, his bottles gracing tables from Florence to Paris. People knew him as the quiet giant of the industry, a man whose success was whispered about in markets and celebrated in glossy magazines. He had wealth, respect, and a life others dreamed of. But here, in the stillness of San Miniato, none of that mattered. Here, he was just a man carrying a love that refused to fade, a love that had left him hollow. Her name was Mariana, the only warmth in a life he had spent chasing ambition. They had met years ago in a small seaside village near Amalfi. He was a young man then, hauling crates of grapes, dreaming of his own vineyard. She was a painter, her hands always stained with color, her laughter bright against the sound of crashing waves. Mariana saw beauty in everything, the curve of a hill, the glow of a sunset, while Luca saw only goals to conquer. She taught him to slow down, to sit on cliffs and watch the sea, to feel the world instead of owning it. She was his anchor, until the day she slipped away without a word. He had searched for her. With every connection he could pull, every favor he could call in, Luca had hunted for answers. But Mariana had vanished, leaving him with nothing but questions that gnawed at his soul. Why had she left? Had he pushed her away with his endless drive? Then, 7 years ago, he found her here, not alive, but etched in stone. She had died alone, taken by a sickness he never knew about. Kneeling now, the rain seeping into his coat, he placed the lavender gently against her grave. 7 years, Mariana, he murmured, his voice lost in the wind, and I still don't understand. His fingers brushed the cold marble, her name, Mariana Rossi, carved deep, a mark that cut him every time he saw it. He shut his eyes, her face flooding back, her wild curls, her paint-splattered smile, the way she made his days feel alive. A rustle nearby snapped him out of it. He wasn't alone. A young woman, maybe 25, stood a few steps away, her hands tucked into a faded denim jacket, her auburn hair stuck to her face in the rain, and her sharp, tired eyes locked onto the same grave. She didn't look like she belonged here, not a tourist, not a mourner passing by. There was something raw in her stare, something that hit Luca like a jolt. He straightened, his gaze narrowing. In all these years, no one else had come to Mariana's grave. He thought she had no one left. "Did you know her?" he asked, his voice steady but edged with wonder. The young woman shifted, her boots scuffing the wet ground. She didn't answer right away. Her lips pressed tight as if holding something back. Then, quietly she spoke, her voice rough but clear. "She was my mother." Luca's breath caught, the world tilting beneath him, the rain, the hills, the gravestone, all of it blurred. He stared at her, searching her face for a lie, for anything to prove this wasn't real. "What?" he whispered, barely hearing himself. She met his eyes, unflinching. "Mariana Rossi was my mother," she said again, slower this time. "And if what she told me is true, you're my father." The words slammed into him, shattering every piece of the life he thought he knew. A daughter. He had a daughter. One Mariana had hidden from him, one he'd never known existed. His knees buckled slightly, and he gripped the gravestone to steady himself. His mind raced, a storm of questions crashing through him. Why didn't she tell me?" he managed, his voice breaking. The young woman gave a small, bitter laugh, her eyes flashing with something old and heavy. "Maybe that's for you to figure out," she said. Then, without another word, she turned and walked off, her figure fading into the misty hills. Luca stood there, the lavender still clutched in his hand, the rain soaking him through. A daughter. His daughter. and she had just walked away, leaving him with a truth he couldn't grasp and a past he could never outrun. Luca couldn't let it end there. His whole life had been about shaping the world to his will. Every vineyard he owned, every deal he struck, proof of his control. But this was different. He had to find her again, his daughter, and uncover the truth. Standing in the misty rain of San Miniato, he pulled out his phone and called the one man he trusted for answers. Marco Conti, a private investigator from Florence who had helped him years ago with a stolen shipment of wine. Marco picked up quickly, his voice smooth and steady. "Luca, what's the trouble?" Luca paused, the weight of it all pressing on his chest. "I need you to find someone," he said. "A young woman, maybe 25. Her mother was Mariana Rossi. That's all I've got." There was a brief silence before Marco replied, "I'll dig into it. Give me a day." The next morning, Luca threw himself into work at his vineyard estate near Siena. He walked the rows of grapes, checked fermentation logs, met with his managers, anything to quiet the storm in his mind. But it was useless. The empire he'd built, the one that once defined him, felt empty now. What was it all for if he'd missed something this real? By evening, his phone rang. Marco's voice came through, calm and direct. "I found her, Sophia Rossi, 26, lives in Edinburgh, Scotland. She's got a small flat near Grassmarket, works as a barista in a coffee shop on Victoria Street." Luca's grip tightened on the phone, his breath catching. Edinburgh, a world away from his sunlit hills. "Send me the address," he said. That night he flew out, landing in Scotland as dawn broke over the rugged city. He drove through narrow streets, past ancient stone buildings, until he reached her flat, a weathered tenement with cracked steps and faded paint. It was nothing like his villa in Tuscany, and the thought of his daughter growing up here twisted something deep inside him. He climbed the stairs, his heart pounding louder with each step. He'd faced storms, droughts, and ruthless competitors, but this, standing at her door, made his hands shake. He knocked twice, firm but careful. The door creaked open, and there she was, Sophia, her auburn hair tied back, her sharp green eyes narrowing the second she saw him. "What are you doing here?" she snapped, her voice cold. Luca steadied himself. "I just want to talk," he said, keeping it simple. She laughed, short and bitter. "You don't quit, do you?" "Not when it's important," he replied, his tone honest. She stared at him, then sighed and stepped aside, letting him in. The flat was tiny, cluttered with books and canvases, paintings of stormy seas and jagged cliffs. Luca's eyes lingered on them, struck by the raw talent in every brushstroke. "You're an artist," he said, not hiding his surprise. Sophia shrugged, crossing her arms. "Trying to be. I study at the Edinburgh College of Art when I'm not pouring coffee." Guilt hit him hard. His daughter had been scraping by, chasing her dreams, while he had been sipping wine in his mansion, oblivious. "It's good work," he said, nodding at a canvas. "You've got skill." She rolled her eyes. "Skill doesn't pay the bills." Luca swallowed, fighting the urge to offer help right then. He knew money wouldn't fix this. "I didn't come to judge," he said instead. "I just need to know, why didn't Mariana tell me about you?" Sophia leaned against the wall, her gaze hard. "Because she didn't want your pity. She knew you were busy building your life. She didn't want to be a burden." Luca's throat tightened. "I would have been there," he whispered. "I would have chosen you both." Sophia's laugh was dry, cutting. "Would you? Or would you have sent a check and kept going?" Her words stung, and Luca had no answer. He'd never felt so small, standing there in her cramped flat, the weight of his absence crushing him. "I can't undo what's done," he said finally, "but I'm here now, if you'll give me a chance." Sophia studied him, her expression guarded. After a long pause, she sighed. "I don't know if I can trust you," she said, "but we'll see." It wasn't much, but it was a crack in the wall between them, a faint hope Luca clung to. Days later, he sat across from her in her tiny flat, the air thick with unspoken years. He didn't know how to bridge the gap. He could command a room full of buyers, but this, talking to his own daughter, left him lost. She stayed distant, her arms crossed, watching him like he might vanish again. He noticed the paintings again, vivid and wild, pinned to the walls. "This one," he said, pointing to a stormy seascape. Did you make it? She nodded, reluctant. Yeah, it's for a project at school. Lucas stepped closer, tracing the lines with his eyes. It's strong. You've got a real gift. She huffed. Gifts don't mean much without a chance to use them. Another pang hit him. Her struggle. His ignorance. What's your dream? He asked, careful not to push. After you finish school? She hesitated, then spoke. I want to paint full-time, maybe open a gallery someday. Show the world what I see. Luca nodded, a quiet pride stirring in him. That's a good plan. Have you thought about exhibitions, mentors? She smirked. Mentors? I barely have time to breathe between shifts. He wanted to help, to open doors, but he held back. If you ever need advice, he said, I know people, artists, gallery owners, I could connect you. Her face hardened. I don't want favors. It's not a favor, he shot back, firm but gentle. It's what a father does. She flinched at the word, and he cursed himself for saying it too soon. I'm not trying to force my way in, he added quickly. I just don't want to miss more time. She rubbed her face, tired. It's not easy, she muttered. Maybe we start small, coffee, a talk, nothing big. Luca's chest loosened. I'd like that, he said. The next day, they met at a cozy cafe near Edinburgh Castle, its stone walls glowing in the soft Scottish light. It wasn't the grand places Luca knew, no crystal glasses or velvet chairs, but it fit Sophia. Real, rough-edged, alive. They ordered coffee, and silence hung between them at first. Then, slowly she opened up, not about Mariana or the past, but about her art, her projects, the colors she loved. Luca listened, soaking in every word, every glimpse of who she was. It wasn't deep, but it was real, their first true moment. As they finished, he slid a card across the table. If you ever need anything, advice, a contact, it's here. No strings. She paused, then took it, tucking it into her bag. This doesn't fix anything, she said, standing. But thanks for the coffee. Luca nodded. One step at a time. She gave a small, hesitant nod, then walked off into the misty streets. He watched her go, a mix of ache and hope swirling inside him. He didn't know where this would lead, but for once, he felt like he was chasing something worth more than gold. Luca arrived early at the cafe near Grassmarket in Edinburgh, a cozy spot with wooden beams and fogged-up windows, the city's castle looming in the misty distance. His hands fidgeted as he sat by the window, nerves humming with quiet hope. This was a chance, maybe the first real one, to connect with Sophia, his daughter. When she walked in, her auburn hair damp from the drizzle, he saw Mariana in her again. It wasn't just her stride, it was the slight tilt of her head, the flicker in her green eyes when she focused. The past tugged at him hard, but he shoved it aside. Sophia was here now. That's what counted. They nodded at each other, a stiff hello, and she picked a table in the corner, the hum of Edinburgh's streets muffled outside. She ordered a black coffee, just like Mariana always did, and Luca followed her lead. As they sat, the silence between them softened, less jagged than before. So, Sophia said, cutting through the quiet, I've been thinking about what you said last time. Luca leaned in a little, unsure where this was headed. Which part? About wanting to know me, she said, sipping her coffee. I've been tough on you, haven't I? Her words caught him off guard. He hadn't expected her to soften, even slightly. No, he said, steady and honest. You've been straight with me. I respect that. She tapped her mug, restless, her eyes dropping to the table. It's just, I don't know how to handle this. I grew up thinking it was just me, and now you're here, with this whole life I never pictured. Her voice carried a raw edge, and it hit Luca deep. He'd never fully felt the hole his absence left in her until now, seeing it in her tense shoulders, her guarded stare. I can't fix what's past, Sophia, he said, but I'm here now, if you'll let me. She didn't answer right away, her gaze drifting to the rain-streaked window. I can't just wipe it away, she said quietly. I've built everything on my own. Letting someone in, it's not simple. Luca nodded. He'd stacked his life with victories, vineyards, wealth, pride, but none of it reached this moment. I'm not asking you to forget, he said. Just a chance, no pressure, no rules. Us figuring it out. She looked at him then, her face easing just a touch. I'm still angry about how it all went, But I'm curious too. That's something, isn't it? A faint smile broke through his tension. That's plenty for me. For the next hour, they talked. The walls didn't fall, but they shifted. She spoke about her art school, her dream of a gallery, even their awkward first meeting in Tuscany. He shared pieces of his world, his vineyards, his quiet days, but mostly, he listened. He wanted her to feel this was about her, about the time he had lost. As they stood to leave, she surprised him. Maybe we could do this again, she said, pausing. Coffee, I mean, not anything big, just steps. His chest warmed, hope flickering. I'd like that, he said. Back at his rented flat near Edinburgh's Old Town, Luca found himself checking his phone more than usual. Since the cafe, something had shifted. Small, fragile, but there. Sophia hadn't texted yet, and he didn't push. He'd learned patience growing grapes. This was harder, but he could wait. Then, one evening, as the city lights glowed through the mist, his phone buzzed. It was Sophia. You busy? The message read. He typed back fast. Not at all. What's up? A beat then. Just thinking. Free to talk? Relief surged through him. Anytime, he replied. Soon the phone rang. Hey, she said, her voice softer than usual. Hey, Sophia, he answered, keeping it light. She let out a breath, like she'd been wrestling with the call. I wanted to ask about Gen Z, about my mom. You've said a bit, but I don't know your side. Luca's chest tightened. He'd buried those years, but now, with her asking, he wanted them back. Mariana was everything, he started, slow and careful. We met in Amalfi. I was hauling grapes, chasing a vineyard dream. She was painting by the sea, always messy with colors. I was all about work, plans, goals. She showed me there was more, made me feel the world. Sophia stayed quiet, so he pressed on. She had this light, gentle but fierce. She'd drag me to cliffs to watch the waves, tell me life wasn't just about winning. I was too young, too driven to see it then. What happened? She asked, her tone softer now. He sighed. I got a shot at my first vineyard in Tuscany. It was all I'd wanted. She stayed in Amalfi, working on a painting she loved. We said we'd make it work, but I put my ambition first. I thought I'd go back for her once I'd made it. I was wrong. Time doesn't wait. She didn't speak for a moment. She didn't say much about you, she said finally. I knew your name, but not the rest. I thought you just left. Luca's throat burned. I didn't want to lose her, Sophia. I told myself I'd fix it later. But by the time I saw what I'd lost, she was gone. A long breath came through the line. Yeah, she murmured. Gone. The silence after wasn't cold. It was shared, like they both felt the same ache. Then she said, I think I want to know more, about her, you, all of it. His heart lifted, steady and warm. I'd like that, he said. But your pace, your terms. She paused. No rush, no big promises. None, he promised. Another beat, then her voice eased. Do you think she'd have wanted this? Us talking? Luca's eyes stung. I know she would, he said, thick with feeling. Mariana believed in second chances. She didn't reply right away, but when she did, it was quiet, thoughtful. Maybe we could meet again soon, just to talk. He smiled into the dark. Whenever you're ready, he said. As the call ended, he stood by his window, the castle's silhouette faint in the fog. For the first time in years, the past wasn't just a shadow. It was a path. Luca sat in the cafe near Edinburgh's Royal Mile, his fingers drumming lightly on the table as he waited. The past few weeks with Sophia had been a slow climb. Coffee chats near her campus, walks through the misty streets, each moment peeling back a layer of distance. Today, though, he'd invited her to his rented flat for dinner, a step up from their usual. It wasn't fancy. He'd hired a local chef for a simple meal, but it felt big. He'd fussed over the setup all day, wanting it warm, not overwhelming. When Sophia walked in, her auburn hair damp from the drizzle, her sharp eyes flicked around the room, taking it in. Hey, he said, standing to greet her, keeping his voice easy. She nodded, stepping inside. Hey, she replied, shrugging off her coat. Nice spot, she said, smirking faintly. Wine money at work? Luca chuckled, matching her tone. Something like that. It's just a rental. Sit, relax. She dropped onto the couch, and he handed her a glass of water, pouring himself a small red. The air buzzed with something new, not tense, but alive. They'd been building this, piece by piece, and he could feel it shifting. They'd met a few times since that first cafe near Grassmarket, quick talks, a walk along the castle hill. Last weekend, over coffee near her art school, she'd asked about his vineyards, even laughed at his story of a ruined grape batch. It wasn't much, but it was real. Now, as they sat, she sipped her water and cut straight to it. So, why'd you ask me here? Lucas set his glass down. Thought it'd be good to talk somewhere quiet. Just dinner, no rush. She raised an eyebrow. You cooked? He grinned. No way. Got help. She smirked. Knew it. The chef brought out the food. Roasted chicken, potatoes, nothing flashy. They ate by the window, the city's fogged lights glowing outside. Talk flowed easier than he'd expected. She told him about a painting she was working on, a jagged cliff against a stormy sky, her voice sparking with quiet fire. He shared a tale from his early days, a storm that nearly sank his first harvest, and her laugh, short but genuine, felt like a gift. As they finished, she leaned back, her face turning serious. So, what's next? She asked, her gaze steady on his. Luca paused, fork down. He knew this wasn't about the meal. That's your call, he said, honest. I'm not here to push you into anything. She stared at the table, then up at him. I don't know how to do this father-daughter stuff. It was just me and Mom. Her words carried a raw edge, and Luca felt the familiar sting of guilt. We don't have to hurry, he said. We can just be whatever works for you. She exhaled, nodding slowly. I think I'd like that. They'd talked about Mariana before, but not deep. Last time, over coffee, she'd asked why they split. He'd told her. Amalfi. His drive, her art. The drift apart. I looked for her later, he'd said then. But she was gone. Didn't know about you. She'd listened. Quiet. Now, she brought it up again. You said you tried finding her. What happened? She asked, softer. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. I did, years after. I'd lost her to my own plans. By then she was here in Scotland, with you. I didn't know. She kept it quiet. Sophia traced the table's edge with her finger. She didn't say much about you, just your name sometimes. You weren't the bad guy, just not there. Luca's throat burned. I regret it every day, he said low. I should have fought harder. For her. For you. She looked at him, searching. I don't know what to do with that, she said. You don't have to, he replied. We go one step at a time. She nodded, a flicker of something. Maybe trust crossing her face. They sat in silence after, but it felt solid, like a thread tying them closer. As she grabbed her coat, she paused. Hey, she said. Thanks for this. Luca smiled, warmth rising. Thanks for coming. She stepped out into the night, fading into Edinburgh's shadows. Days later, Luca texted her. Hope your painting's going well. Coffee soon? She replied quick. It's all right. Yeah, weekend works. Saturday came, and they met at a small spot near her school. She seemed looser, less guarded. Class is good? He asked. She shrugged. Busy, but fine. Then, out of the blue, she said, I've been thinking, maybe I could work with that designer friend you mentioned, the one who does your wine labels. Luca blinked, surprised. You mean painting for them? She nodded. Yeah, summer thing. Could be cool. He smiled, careful. You'd be great at that, but no easy rides. You'd earn it. She smirked. Wouldn't take it otherwise. Hope sparked in him, small, but real. Sophia leaned against the couch in Luca's flat, her eyes catching the soft light. You know, she said, I used to wonder what my dad was like. Some guy who didn't care, or a total wreck. She smirked at him. You're not what I thought. Luca set his wine down. What'd you expect? Some rich old guy with no heart, she said. He laughed. Rich, sure. Hope I've got a heart left. She grinned. You're all right. It wasn't loud, but it hit deep. A quiet bridge after months of steps. Their rhythm had grown. Coffee near her campus, walks through Edinburgh's grey streets, a rugby match he'd fumbled through but cheered anyway. Each moment shaved the edge off their distance. He felt like a father now, late to it but all in, though a flicker of worry stayed, pushed too much, and she might slip back. One night, over tea in a dim pub, Sophia stirred her cup and said, "I've been thinking about North Berwick. Mom's ashes are there. Haven't been since we scattered them." Luca looked up. "Why there?" She sighed. "She loved it. Took me when I was little. Feels right to go back." He nodded. "Good idea. Want me along?" She paused, then said, "Yeah, I'd like that." Days later, they drove out, the Scottish coast wild and open. North Berwick's cliffs loomed as they walked to the shore, wind sharp against their skin. Sophia stood by the water, hands in her pockets, staring out. "Hey, Mom," she whispered, voice lost in the waves. Lucas stayed back, watching her kneel, fingers brushing the sand. "I'm okay," she said, soft. "School's good. Friends are fine. And I met my dad. He's trying, Mom. Think you'd like that." Lucas' chest tightened, her words cutting through years of regret. Hearing her tie him to Mariana's memory felt like a quiet absolution. She stood, brushing off her hands, and turned to him. "Thanks for coming," she said, eyes softer. "Always," he replied, a hand on her shoulder. They left the shore in silence, but it wasn't heavy. It held them together. "Over fish and chips in town," she smirked. "Hungry?" "Mom loved this place. Best food here." Luca grinned. "Lead on." Something clicked then, the walls between them barely there. Back in Edinburgh, life settled into something steady. Sophia was a fixture now, dinners at his flat, botched cooking attempts ending in takeout and laughs. One night, as she sliced carrots and he stirred a lumpy sauce, she turned serious. "That designer thing, I'm in for the summer. Painting labels sounds fun." Lucas set the spoon down, thrilled but calm. "You'll kill it. No shortcuts, though," she smirked. "Wouldn't want it easy." That night felt light, free, like the past wasn't a shadow anymore. She started the project weeks later, working with Lucas' friend, sketching wine labels with bold, wild strokes. He watched her shine, pride swelling. One evening as they sat in his flat after a long day, Sophia looked at him. "I know it wasn't supposed to be like this," she said. "I grew up without you. And when you showed up, I didn't want you. I was mad. But now, I'm glad you're here." She took a breath. "Glad we found each other." Lucas' throat caught, her words sinking in. "I'm glad too," he said, steady. "I missed a lot, but I'm here now, not leaving." She smiled, real and small. "Good. I kinda like you around." He chuckled, warmth flooding him. "That's a relief." That summer was Luca's richest. They worked together, her art on his bottles, took drives to the coast, sat under the stars with glasses of wine he had taught her to taste. Sophia became family, not just blood, but heart. Years later, when she opened her gallery, walls lined with paintings of cliffs and vines, Luca knew she was his legacy. Proof life could heal if you held on. This time, he wouldn't let go.